Hello there everyone, so time for another faction overview. This time it's going to be the Principality of Dol Amroth. So basically very hard, that's why we selected. As I've said, in all of these campaigns I actually played the early 10 turns, the initial 10 turns, just to make sure that I could get a glimpse of what it would mean to play with a faction. So let's start it up. So in terms of the Dol Amroth campaign, I can already explain. Basically, I consider it to be an average campaign. You only have to defeat two factions who are probably the ones that you would go nevertheless. And there's never going to be too much trouble with either of them, just because of your sweet initial position. So I'm going to show you there. Yeah, all of that. So basically, you have to defeat. Let me show you. You have to defeat Umbar and the Haradrim tribes. Umbar will for sure start attacking you very early, but you do have the necessary stuff to deal with it. I would advise getting rid of a couple of these ones, just in the interest of upkeep, sake of finances, of course. So basically, you only have to hold 30 regions, which is actually the good thing about Dol Amroth. It doesn't mean that it will be a very long campaign. As soon as you get the early stuff done, you can start conquering on this big mass of land. And it can be annoying just because it is so spread out. I mean, there's not a lot of uh, rivers here, for instance, or mountains that will prevent movement. Basically, everything is onto the taking, and the coast will also be available or vulnerable to attacks. So I predict a lot of back and forth during the campaign. Now, in terms of the of Edelhond, you can actually get it in the first turn. I'll explain. You can get it in the first turn by just using a good general, such as even these rangers, for instance, sieging it up, and they will sally out. They will consider selling out, and these are only bandits. You can deal with them fairly easy. I think I actually used this general just to conquer Edelhond. If not, you can always try to siege it up for a longer time, or even take it as you would like by a siege, which I wouldn't advise. It's not actually a very good city. It doesn't have a lot of buildings. It's just since it has already been upgraded to city, it can grow really fast. You can build a lot of stuff really fast. Now, there is a lot of rebels in your lands, by the way. You will be ambushed many times, so be careful when moving in. I actually did have a couple of battles that I had the chance to use the Royal Swan God, which is amazing. It's probably the best cavalry in the whole game. 1033, and they are skilled against mounts. Now I'd like to talk a little bit about the military. They have very early good units, but they lack a little bit of archer production. So you start with some good units, many cavalry units, some archer militias here and there. You actually have access to Gondor militia, and they're kind of upgraded versions sometimes. You have archer militia as well, and you have some Amrothia pikemen. So basically, you have a swordsman, a pikeman unit, or a spearman unit, cavalry units, and archer units. That's pretty much it. But then you have this. The unit recruitment roster in Dol Amroth allows you to have some very interesting units, even though they are expensive, as even the Amarothian pikemen you can see there, or the guardsmen, or even the Gondor militia for that matter. You lack a little bit of some specific units. For instance, you have a lot of stuff against mounts. You do not have a lot of units versus armored units. I think that's one of the points that I had explained. You actually have good mercenaries, by the way, because basics. I think I cannot recruit here. Let me see here. Yeah, you have actually good access to mercenaries because you can just enter Gondor's lands and have theirs, which means very highly effective units, and some of them, like the Lebanon ones, I'm sorry, the X-Men ones, who you lack. You lack some good armor, anti-armor capabilities. Now, the biggest problem that I faced is actually in terms of finances, and this brings me to the next point. Their units are very, very expensive, and especially their generals. I mean, 13 units, they cost already 275. Now, just make use of the forts. You actually start with 3 forts. So, making use of these forts and making sure that everyone is not providing upkeep problems will ensure that you can actually keep building up and keep recruiting units. Swan Knights, I would like to um, notice. Swan Knights are really good. I managed to defeat 800 just with 1 unit of Swan Knight, 800 men. This was an ambush that happened along here, and all that you need is just to repeat charge, repeat charge, repeat charge, even against spearmen. These guys are just amazing. Just send the Swan Knights in, charge again, charge again. They will do massive casualties. It's amazing. Finances are good, but abuse these upkeep. I cannot stress that out enough. You know, you already start on a position where you do not have a lot of profits and you don't have a lot of military units, as you can see. So just make sure that you station them until you're ready to move out and conquer someone else. You can get rid of the boats, but do note that you will be attacked very early in the beginning. Also, do note that while moving to the forts, you will be ambushed. So as soon as you clear up the ambushes here, make sure that you have enough units to deal with basic ambushes from rebel units that you will have. As soon as you clear those up, just make sure that you focus on using these forts and on the cities, of course, to make sure that you don't have upkeep. So in terms of generals, I would like to say that you have basically 2 very good ones, which is your faction leader, which is a unit of Talon Knights, a very good basic heavy infantry unit. You do have the special ability of the Iron Fist, and then you have the faction Heir, which is, as you can see by the numbers, a Swan Knight unit with a special ability of Iron Fist as well. Iron Fist is just really great. As I've said, you lack early production of some units, some specific ones that will, cause most damage to armored troops, for instance. But let's just see how that will be in the late game. So you actually get the Talon Guards. I'm just checking the abilities at a glance here. You have the Haven Guard, Dol Amroth Man-at-Arms, Dol Amroth Footman, Amrothian Guardsman, Amrothian Pikeman. Do you see the trend? There is actually no unit that is good versus armor. So make sure you get them as fast as possible. You get units that will cause some damage against those as fast as possible, or just abuse the fact that you have very good archers. I mean, all of these archers are very good. You can check out the description here in terms of the range and the accuracy. Nimraldale, of course, are your bread and butter archer. I mean, there's never a reason not to purchase these guys. I also wanted to show you in terms of the stables. You get Gondor Cavalry Militia. You have Dol Amroth Squires, which are a little bit better. Dor and Ernil Lancers. You can check the charge bonus. The White Knights, skilled against mounts, 1222, and the Knights of the Silver Swan, of course. They are just your bread and butter, basically. But even though they are very expensive there. Now, there's not a lot of units that I can see here that can provide actually. I recall that there wasn't any units that could produce anti-armor capabilities, so that will be a very big problem. Now, just to explain why don't I consider that, I just thought that it would be a very big problem. I would like to emphasize the wood, because most units that Harad and Umbar, your biggest enemies, are going to send against you are not that armored. So you won't actually require that much. Bear that in mind. So you have perfect army capabilities in order to deal with all of them. And you have a very good navy, early navy even though. Now we start with 1 diplomat, if I'm not mistaken.
Your orders.
And basically the idea is just to keep keep sending him whenever you want. I would produce a second one as quick as possible in order to send and talk to Enidwaith and everyone in the north, getting some trades and all that stuff. That'll be the best one. Of course, you can also recruit some spies. Not here, if I'm mistaken, but you can recruit them on Lean here. Yeah, there we go. You can also recruit some spies, which spies are very important. It's a very big mass of land, and you need to check out on all of this. So in resume, be careful with your early finances. The early game is quite easy. Just defend a little bit, capture Edelhond, muster anything that you can. I know I would use this fort and then just start launching the campaign towards the south. Or you can just use your navy and engage this small island and take the coastal cities around here. You can even go against the Variags. You can even go against Mordor if you would like. You know, just conquer Minas Morgul or whatever. Just lend some assistance, perhaps sending a couple of men here to lend assistance to Gondor would be interesting. That's up to you. Now, there was one aspect that I didn't mention, which is basically in terms of um, the money that you can get. There's only one building that is actually very good. I'm going to show you that the mines aren't that good, but the roads are. They will produce the most income early on, and of course, not just these ones, but also the roads here on the thrust. I believe they do produce the same thing. No, not really. So exactly what I wanted you guys to know is that the first building that he should do right over here in Dol Amroth, I believe it should be either the governor's quarters, 2 turns to get a little bit of building cost reduction, or just go over straight up to the great roads. Of course, they cost a lot of money, half what you start with, but it will pay off. Other than that, there's no specific good buildings, so mind your upkeep. That's how you're going to make money, by not paying for the army that you'd be able to have here. And they gave you the good tools. You know, have 3 forts, that means 12 units that will have no upkeep at all. So bear that in mind. And that'll be it in terms of the faction. So basically, careful that you don't have anti-armor capabilities. Be careful of the whole area that you have to conquer. It's a difficult early start in terms of how do I start expanding. You know, start here, it's really cool, conquer Edelhond, then what's next? You know, the first 10 turns were easy, and I predict that the next 20 wouldn't be. In terms of money and finances, you also don't have access to something that will provide you big lumps of money immediately. Just those roads there on Dol Amroth, and make sure that your port is, or that your ports are never blockaded. I forgot to mention that, because if they do, you lose half your income very soon. Swan Knights are really cool. I cannot stress that enough. They will win most of the battles that you need, and that'll be it. Yep, of course. So they're very expensive units, as you've noticed in upkeep. I don't have to mention. These are very expensive units, more expensive than Gondor, and without having the finances to back it up. Okay, guys, I hope you guys have fun. It actually seemed one of the most interesting factions to play, Dol Amroth, when I finished up all of the other factions. So I hope you guys enjoyed this one, and leave a comments below if you would like me to mention anything else, or even if you would prefer, for instance, me to play through the first 10 turns. That will make possibly like an hour episode. I will have a couple of battles and such, but I can possibly squeeze that in if you would like. For now, this is all, guys. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys on the next faction review. Bye bye. Cheers.